From absolute void, a complete cosmos emerges. Light arises from the birth of a word. Human consciousness is awakened by a divine breath. This is not merely a narrative, it is the narrative. It is the ancestral tale that resonates through the ages, outlining the future of billions. It's a cosmic adventure that challenges our understanding and awakens our imagination. Prepare to engage in the most impactful narrative ever told, the story of creation, the fall, and the beginning of everything we know. Welcome all to the stage where the eternal drama between the divine and the human unfolds, where every word can transform reality and every choice has lasting implications. Initially, there was only emptiness and darkness. In the abyss, there was absolute silence, and the Spirit of God hovered gently over the waters. It was in this primitive setting that the magnificent story of creation began, a narrative that echoed through the centuries and influenced the faith and understanding of numerous generations. The biblical account of creation, found in the book of Genesis, begins with a simple but profound statement. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This seemingly simple statement portrays an act of immense power, the emergence of the universe from nothing. Every day, the Creator used His words to shape the world. He proclaimed, "Let there be light." And the first ray of light broke through the darkness, shining in the universe. The waters divided, forming the sky above and the seas below. The dryness of the ground gave way to the expansion of vegetation, resulting in a world painted with green hues and the vivid colors of the first flowers. On the fourth day, the celestial bodies took on a defined appearance. The skies were filled with the placement of the sun, moon, and stars, thus creating the cycles of seasons, days, and years. On the fifth day, life began to pulse both in the waters and in the air, with fish swimming in the deep oceans and birds flying through the newly formed skies. On the sixth day, land animals were created, ranging from small insects to the imposing creatures that roamed the plains and forests. And at the pinnacle of creation, God made human beings. God said, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness." Thus, Adam was created from the dust of the ground and received the breath of life in his nostrils. Eve, his partner, was formed from a rib taken from Adam to represent the union and collaboration between man and woman. Humanity was blessed with a divine mission. It would be a challenging task, but also a privilege for the first humans and subsequent generations to exercise the responsibility of caring for creation. On the seventh day, God paused all His creative work. He blessed this day and made it holy, thus establishing a model of work and rest that humanity would adopt for many centuries. The Garden of Eden, with its unparalleled beauty, was created by God as a paradise on earth. Among trees laden with succulent fruits, crystal-clear rivers meandered through the harmonious scenery, while exotic flowers spread their fragrance through the air and all creatures lived in absolute peace. In this paradisiacal setting, Adam and Eve enjoyed a harmonious coexistence with nature and maintained an intimate relationship with their Creator. They were without shame, enjoying a primordial innocence, free from the worries and burdens that would later bring affliction to humanity. Adam was given by God the responsibility of naming all the animals, an action that revealed both man's dominion over the creatures and his collaboration with the Creator in organizing the world. Eve, a suitable helper for Adam, complemented the divine image in humanity by mirroring both the diversity and unity present in God's own essence. The couple had freedom to enjoy all the fruits of the garden, with only one exception: the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God warned them, "Abstain from tasting the fruit of the tree of knowledge, which brings both good and evil, for if you eat of it, you will surely be condemned to death." Through this single prohibition, it was intended to verify the degree of obedience and trust. Adam and Eve had all the necessary resources to live a full and happy life, but they also held the power to make decisions, a power that would soon be tested dramatically. The serpent, described as the most cunning of all animals, entered the scene with a seemingly innocent question. This subtle question raised a doubt in Eve's mind. Did God really say this? "Do not eat from any tree in the garden?" Eve responded, correcting the serpent, but the cunning creature continued its seduction. "You will certainly not die. God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will have the same understanding of good and evil as God." Eve felt a desire awaken within her that she had never felt before. She began to see the fruit differently, realizing that besides being food, it was also a secret reservoir of knowledge. The desire grew as the promise of obtaining divine knowledge and uncertainties about God's true intentions strengthened. In a moment of weakness, Eve stretched out her arm and picked the fruit. She sank her teeth into the succulent pulp, and her mouth filled with a bittersweet taste of defiance. She gave the fruit to Adam, who was by her side, and he also ate. As soon as the last piece was swallowed, a profound change occurred. Their eyes were opened, but in an unexpected way. Instead of receiving the promised divine wisdom, they found themselves naked and exposed. The layer of innocence that enveloped them like a protection vanished, leaving them vulnerable not only physically, but also spiritually. Ashamed, Adam and Eve used fig leaves to hide their nakedness. When they heard the sound of God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, something that would have brought joy before now filled them with fear. In an attempt to escape the Creator, they hid among the trees. God called, not out of ignorance of where they were, but to offer Adam and Eve a chance to confess. Adam responded in fear. "When I heard your voice in the garden, I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." The dialogue that unfolded showed how deep the fall was. Adam blamed Eve, while Eve blamed the serpent, and no one took responsibility for their own actions. The perfect harmony between God, humans, and creation had been unbalanced. The disobedience had serious and far-reaching consequences. God pronounced judgments on each of those involved. For the serpent, "Cursed are you above all livestock and all wild animals. You will crawl on your belly, and you will eat dust all the days of your life. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." For Eve, "I will make your pains in childbearing very severe. With painful labor, you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you." For Adam, "Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground." With these declarations, the life that Adam and Eve had known came to an end. After being expelled from the Garden of Eden, the entrance was guarded by cherubim wielding flaming swords to prevent any attempt to return. Paradise had been found, but a new challenging reality full of obstacles presented itself before them. The fall impacted not only Adam and Eve, but also affected all of creation. Conflict and struggle took the place of perfect harmony. Nature, which was once totally submissive to man, became hostile. Before, work was a source of happiness, but now it became extremely difficult. The relationship between man and woman, once marked by equality and partnership, ended up being deteriorated by the imposition of power and submission. Most markedly, the fall brought with it the advent of death in the world. After disobedience, there was a spiritual separation from God followed by physical death. Death became the predominant reality for human beings, a constant reminder of the consequences of defying the Creator. However, despite the ongoing judgment, there was a promise of hope. God pronounced a curse on the serpent, in which he mentioned a descendant of the woman who would eventually crush the reptile's head. This promise, recognized as the proto-gospel, indicated that a Savior would come in the future to triumph over evil and restore everything that was lost in the fall. As time passed, the human population increased more and more on the surface of the planet. However, as the population increased, so did wickedness. According to the biblical account, it is clear that God perceived an increase in human wickedness and observed that all their thoughts were exclusively turned to evil. God's heart was saddened by the condition in which his creation found itself. Wickedness was predominant, with violence and corruption everywhere. God determined that humanity needed a new beginning and restart. In the midst of this depravity, however, there was a man who found grace in the eyes of the Lord: Noah. Noah was known for his righteousness and integrity, as well as for his companionship with God in an era marked by the corruption of the entire generation. God revealed his plan of judgment and salvation to this man. It was God who gave Noah the instruction to build an ark, a gigantic boat that would serve as shelter for his family and specimens of all animal species. The dimensions of the ark were impressive, approximately 140 meters long, about 23 meters wide, and approximately 14 meters high. The construction of this giant ship was not only a test of skill, but also of faith and determination. For 120 years, while building the ark, Noah exhorted his contemporaries to repent. Each nail hammered, each board placed represented a silent testimony of the impending judgment and a call for transformation. However, people made light of and disregarded Noah's warnings, remaining in their sinful behaviors. In the end, when the ark was ready, God instructed Noah to enter the ark with his family and all the animals. God declared that in a week, "I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. Every living creature I have made I will wipe from the face of the earth." As promised, the flood inundated the earth. The springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were opened. The rain fell continuously for a period of 40 days and nights. The waters rose so high that they covered the highest mountains, resulting in the loss of all life on dry land. For 150 days, the ark floated on the turbulent waters, carrying its precious cargo of life. Noah, his family, and the animals remained safe inside the vessel, supported by divine will, as the world they knew sank beneath the waves. After 5 months, the waters began to recede, and the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. First, Noah sent out a raven and then a dove to check the conditions outside the ark. Seeing the dove return with a freshly plucked olive leaf in its beak, Noah was certain that the waters had receded enough for life to return to the earth. More than a year after the flood began, God finally gave the order for Noah and his family to leave the ark along with the animals. Upon reaching solid ground after several months, Noah built an altar and presented offerings to the Lord as a way of expressing gratitude for being saved. God, pleased with Noah's offering, made a solemn promise. As evidence of this covenant, God set the rainbow in the sky as an eternal reminder of his promise to never again destroy the earth through a flood. The flood left its mark as a new starting point for humanity. Noah and his family were given the responsibility to repopulate the earth, just as Adam and Eve were the first. However, starting anew did not mean that man's sinful nature had been eliminated. As soon as Noah left the ark, he decided to plant a vineyard and produce wine. But by drinking to excess, he showed that even the most virtuous men can be vulnerable to weakness and sin. Noah's posterity became numerous and spread throughout the earth, giving rise to various ethnic groups and communities. After the flood, subsequent generations experienced a reduction in longevity compared to their pre-flood ancestors, but still had considerably long lives by current standards. Thanks to this longevity, it was possible to observe rapid population growth and the emergence of new technologies and cultures. As the number of inhabitants increased, a considerable group of individuals settled in the plain of Shinar, that located in Mesopotamia. This resource-rich area, crossed by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, provided favorable conditions for agriculture and the long-term establishment of communities. In this scenario of prosperity and growth, an ambitious project emerged that would change the course of human history: the building of the Tower of Babel. The biblical account tells us that people said to each other, "Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth." This choice demonstrated a proud and defiant attitude towards God. Instead of following the divine command to multiply and fill the earth, they preferred to concentrate in one place and glorify their own name. The tower was not just any physical structure. It represented human arrogance, an effort to equate themselves with God. The construction of the tower was an impressive project for the period. Demonstrating a significant advancement in construction techniques, the builders chose to use bricks instead of stones and pitch as mortar. It's likely that the tower was similar to a ziggurat, a common structure in ancient Mesopotamia that had a stepped pyramid shape and was often used for religious purposes. As the tower rose towards the sky, God watched the progress of humanity with apprehension. He said, If as one people speaking the same language they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. God responded to this attitude of disobedience with a solution as brilliant as it was definitive. Instead of causing the destruction of the tower or applying direct punishments to the people, he chose to confuse the language of the builders. Suddenly, there was a lack of understanding between people who used to communicate without difficulties. Communication at the construction site became a chaos of different, incomprehensible languages. The confusion of languages had an immediate and lasting impact. Unable to communicate effectively, the builders were forced to give up their project. The unfinished city and its tower became famous as Babel, whose name in Hebrew is similar to the verb to confuse. Moreover, this event provoked an even more significant dispersion of humanity. Various groups of people who could understand each other decided to unite and depart for different locations, fulfilling, even unwittingly, God's original command to spread throughout the world. In the biblical narrative, the Tower of Babel represents a decisive moment. It attributes the origin of humanity's linguistic and cultural diversity to divine intervention, presenting it as a direct result. Furthermore, it creates the context for the following stories about how God acted through specific peoples and nations to realize his plan of salvation. The narrative from creation to the Tower of Babel contains fundamental themes that echo throughout the Bible and still resonate in human experience today. 1. God's sovereignty. From the beginning of creation to Babel, where languages were confused, we can observe that God plays a central role as the supreme author and controller of history. His will prevails, even when people try to rebel or follow their own paths. 2. Human dignity and fallibility. Human beings possess incredible potential and dignity as they were created in God's image. However, since the fall in Eden, they also have a tendency to sin and rebel. 3. The consequences of sin. Each time God is disobeyed, it brings lasting consequences. The fall resulted in death and suffering for the world, while the flood was provoked by increasing wickedness. Moreover, the division of humanity happened because of the pride manifested in the construction of Babel. 4. Grace amidst judgment. Even during moments of divine judgment, we can witness the manifestation of God's grace. After the fall, he provides clothes for Adam and Eve. He saves Noah and his family during the flood. In Babel, the mixing of languages is not just a punishment, but also prevents even worse evils that could arise if humans united in rebellion. 5. God's redemptive plan. From the moment the promise of the descendant who would crush the serpent's head was made, to the moment God chose to preserve humanity through Noah, we can observe the first signs of the divine plan to recover his corrupted creation. 6. The importance of obedience and faith. Figures like Noah stand out as examples of faith and obedience to God, even in difficult or seemingly absurd circumstances. 7. The tension between unity and diversity. The Babel narrative illustrates how linguistic and cultural diversity, although originating as a judgment, becomes an integral part of God's plan for humanity. These origin stories are not mere accounts of past events, but foundations that shape our understanding of the world, ourselves, and our relationship with the divine. They address fundamental questions about human existence. Where did we come from? Why are we here? Why is the world the way it is? For believers, these narratives offer a framework for understanding the purpose and meaning of life. They present a God who is both transcendent in his power and immanent in his care for creation. They show a humanity that, although fallen, still carries the divine image and is the object of God's love and grace. For skeptics, these stories still offer valuable insights into the beliefs and values that have shaped civilizations for millennia. They reflect humanity's perennial struggles with questions of identity, purpose, and morality. Regardless of individual perspective, the profound impact these origin narratives have had and continue to have on culture, art, literature, and human thought is undeniable. They invite us to contemplate our origin, our nature, and our destiny, challenging us to consider our relationship with the divine and our role in the great drama of existence. As the biblical narrative advances beyond these origin stories, we see how these fundamental themes continue to develop. The story of Abraham, which follows right after Babel, marks the beginning of a new chapter in God's relationship with humanity. A chapter of promise, covenant, and the formation of a chosen people through whom God would work to fulfill his plan of redemption for all creation. Thus, the origins are not just the beginning, but the foundation upon which the entire biblical narrative and, by extension, the history of Judeo-Christian faith is built. They set the stage for the great story of love, rebellion, judgment, and redemption that unfolds in the pages of the Bible and beyond, reaching to the present day. These narratives remind us that, despite our failures and weaknesses, we are part of a larger story. A story that began with the words, "Let there be light," and continues to unfold in every human life. A story that invites us to reflect on our own journey, our choices, and our place in this vast cosmos created by a God who, despite everything, never gave up on his creation. We are the heirs of Adam and Eve, bearers of both the divine image and the propensity to fall. We are the survivors of the flood, reborn from the waters of judgment for a new chance. We are the builders of Babel, eternally divided, but united in our search for meaning and transcendence. This story is not just about the past, it's the map of our present and the key to our future. In every choice we make, in every relationship we build, in every dream we pursue, echo the lessons of Eden, the flood, and Babel. And now, dear viewer, the torch of this eternal narrative passes to you. What will be the next chapter you write in your own story? How will the lessons from these origins shape your tomorrow? If this epic journey has awakened your curiosity, if you feel the call to dive deeper into these ancestral waters of wisdom, don't stop here. Your next adventure is just a click away. Do you see the video cards appearing on the screen? They are the portal to the next chapter of this saga to further edify your life. Choose one and click. Continue your journey through the living pages of the most impactful story ever told. Don't let this be just another story you've heard. Make it the story you live. Click on the video, subscribe to the channel, and become part of this eternal narrative. The story continues, and you are the next protagonist. Click now and discover your role in this drama of God. Until next time,